Yeah, yeah. Going back home? Huh? Yeah, 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 no issue.
Also, if you could share our email ID with me, which is after the example here, now, एक आज मैंने गलत कर दिया।
हाँ ठीक. What were we discussing last? पब्लिक पॉलिसी का क्या कर रहे थे? मॉडल्स कर लिया? न्यू इंस्टीट्यूशनल ना, हाँ मॉडल्स वी हैड स्टार्टेड. ठीक है, ठीक है. We'll have to write it down only mostly. We'll have to quickly finish paper one. That's why mid next month we'll have to finish the whole paper. Paper two will be very easy, very descriptive, not nothing much conceptual. Paper one we'll do quickly. That's why I extended the class timings. Initially, 1 hour 20 minutes we used to get there. It's very short. Models. Institutional model we did. Did we complete the institutional model? ठीक है. What did you write? Just read it out.
Concerned with how different politics related to different branches to government. New institutional model is complete.
ठीक है, ठीक है. Okay. No, I had something more on the institutional approach. That public policy originates, right, right. Continue with the new institutional only. I mean, just right. Public policy originates from the specialized units, within the government machinery. Within the government machinery, the existence and nature of a policy depends on existence and nature of the relevant public institution. The relevant public institution. It is assumed here that the government is the most important actor. The problem with this model, right, a critique of this model, and the critique of this model, right, this model gives the government an unhindered role, ignoring the fact that the government is not always the most important actor. Are you able to understand why government is not always the most important actor? What will be an example of this? Policy making. So where is government not the most important actor and other actors are playing a larger role? Farm laws is a major example of this. That even though government wanted something to do something, the people or the farmers or the section of farmers didn't want that. That's a critique. And when it comes to institutional models, actual idea, the example of institutional model would be, think of some government institution that has come up with a specific kind of policy. What will that be? Uh, Government institutions, a specific kind of policy. Please some space for this. If any example comes to my mind, I'll discuss. Uh, uh, Next is under group model. Also, have you written some criticisms on that? Group model we haven't written. We have only done one till now, right? Institutional model. Next, right? Group model. So, principal idea is the group or the society consists of various groups. Society consists of various groups, each pressuring each pressuring the state, each pressuring the state to formulate policies that protect its interests. Formulate policy that protect its interest. That protect its interest. Okay? Uh, Now, for example, a policy is being made. For example, an educational policy is being made. Now, in that policy, for example, the new education policy was made in 2020. There are a lot of people having an influence. For example, private education institution would have an influence. Pratham, the NGO, will have an influence. Governments, different institutions will have an influence. For example, the Kasturi Rangan committee that recommended or framed the new education policy, that committee would have also an influence. Similarly, students will have an influence on it, teachers will have an influence on it. That means different groups are having an influence when it comes to policy making. Okay, so group model. What was the last thing that I said? Protect its interest. The government is a passive actor. The government is a passive actor that formulates policy according to the interest of the most powerful group, according to the interest or demands of the most powerful group. Okay? Uh, what will be an example of this, of the most powerful group? So your job while studying all of these notes is, for every part, think of an Indian example. Okay, and in paper 2, when we will do, for every part you will have to think of a theory in the paper 1 that applies there. Okay? That is the key. हाँ, क्या, what is the example? Business groups. I think something more pinpoint. What within GST more most powerful groups? Hmm? How is G20 what policy? Hmm? And I can't think of any example today for some reason. Usually बहुत आता है. Now the critique, right? The critique of this. This model, portrays the state as a mere routine instrument, without any power or choice, without any power or choice, which is unrealistic. Because in reality, state is not passive. Hmm. Next, right?
When we say powerful group, um, we just like talk about powerful group in the means of money or um,
Influence. It can be.
can it be religious?
Oh, in this group model, you can write that India against corruption movement. So the Lokpal came. So Anna Hazare. I mean, these are groups that are influencing policy making. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
India against corruption movement, right? Anna Hazare, Arvind Kejriwal, everybody was a part of that. India against corruption movement.
Reasons be religious.
Huh. It can be religious. Example would be what in terms of religion? We'll see in the other models. We'll see how religion comes into picture. Which है religion? It's actually reforming religion. So mostly what we do is we reform the religion. So it is against religious groups mostly. I mean, Sabarimala, Triple Talaq, everything that we do.
If we talk about the Maratha reservation protests that are happening in Maharashtra, the government had to like form a committee in order to prepare a blueprint of how the reservation policy is going to go for the OBCs. So they had to take into consideration
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of castes and
yeah, that's a group model of yeah, that's a group model. Example would be a Maratha reservation or even Jat reservation, whatever you want to do. Next is Marxist model. Marxist model. Public policy is the handwork of the bourgeoisie. This is what Marxists are saying. Public policy is the handwork of the bourgeoisie. It is made to protect and perpetuate the interest of the capitalist class, making it inherently exploitative and unjust. Even if even if it is presented as being in the public interest. Even if it is presented as being in the public interest. Now, because you remember when we did Marxist or when we studied Karl Marx as a theorist, he said that whatever bureaucracy is also doing, bureaucracy in the name of public policy or in the name of public interest, they're serving the interest of the bourgeoisie. Problem with this is what the critique of this would be that what Marxists are ignoring is there are different groups, whether or not they are bourgeoisie or not, they can be powerful in nature, both politically. Yes. So, for example, marginalized castes in some different states, right? This is an example that marginalized class under the critique that it ignores that certain groups can be influential as well when it comes to public interest, when it comes to influencing public policy. Example, right? Uh, Things such as dominant castes in certain states have huge sway in determining public policy, even though economically they are not the part of the bourgeoisie. Uh, right, neo-Marxist within this only, right, neo-Marxist variation of this. Neo-Marxists are saying they believe that multiple classes, such as the bourgeoisie, white collar, bourgeoisie, white collar, blue collar, etc., continue to exist and compete. They're saying class, no single class can completely capture the state, which therefore becomes relatively autonomous. Relatively autonomous. The state can sometimes go against the immediate interest of the bourgeoisie, but the overall characteristics of public policy, will remain within the framework of capitalism. Basically, what neo-Marxists are saying different than Marxists are saying only bourgeoisie interest is served all the times. Neo-Marxists is saying not all the times bourgeoisie interest is solved. Most of the times, or in the long run, if you see that bourgeoisie interest is being served, but for short term, for short while, for minor issues, other uh, groups' interests are also taken care of by the state. Because there are so many groups competing, state at times becomes autonomous from bourgeoisie interest. Yes. Now write a critique of this. This model portrays the state as in a purely negative character, negative character, ignoring its benevolent action or welfare actions. Ignoring its benevolent or welfare actions. It also takes autonomy away from the state. Presenting it as completely captured. Next model is elite model. Uh, Previously captured. Completely captured. No? Presenting it as completely captured. ये था last line. Elite model. Policy is formulated by and for the elites. A minority, that is, a minority set apart by their power, prestige, and access to resources. C. Wright Mills identified the power elite as those in key positions in politics, business, and the military. Politics, business, and the military. Though from different institutions, these elites are homogeneous in their values, and their interest institutions, these elites are homogeneous. These elites are homogeneous in their values and their interests coincide. This model, so the problem with this model is write a critique. This model largely ignores the role of non-elites and the masses in the policy making process. In the masses in policy making process. Next point is the pluralist model. Pluralist model. Individuals form organizations and associations. Individuals form organizations and associations to maximize their interest. These entities compete with each other. These entities compete with each other and put pressure on the state to formulate favorable policies. In this model, the state acts as a neutral referee. In this model, state acts as a neutral referee, creating a fair environment, environment for this competition to take place. Now, neo-pluralists are also saying something. Neo-pluralists, they argue that state is not completely neutral. They argue that state is not completely neutral. The state itself contains powerful groups. The state itself contains powerful groups, such as politicians and the bureaucracy. Such as politicians and the bureaucracy. And among the competing external groups, external means out of the state groups, such as industrialists, are consistently more powerful than others. Are consistently more powerful than others. Okay. Next is a rational model. Basically, this is a model. This is a root model of policy making. It involves choosing. It involves choosing the means that is most logical and efficient to reach the goal. Means that is most logical to reach the goal. This model given by Drawer, this model given by Drawer is a critique of both the limitations of Simon's bounded rationality bounded rationality, and the conservatism of Lindblom's incrementalism. Lindblom's incrementalism. We should have written in Lindblom first, but okay, let's finish this and we'll write incrementalism then after this. So, right, the critiques of other models. Simonian rationality. Simonian rationality was criticized for excluding crucial extra-rational components, like human values, intuition, from policy formulation. In the incremental model, second, and the incremental model was criticized for being conservative, that is, justifying the status quo. Being conservative, that means justifying the status quo, and elitist, that is, changes are made based on the demands of the most powerful group, that is, elitist. Drawer in this model only gives something called an optimal model. Okay, write down optimal model. Drawer advocates for an optimal public policy formulation that combines the best of both worlds. That combines best of both worlds. First, it requires accepting. First point, it requires accepting Simon's idea of rationality as an overall requirement. Next, there is a need for introducing management techniques and advanced decision-making tools to enhance rationality. Third, employing a policy science approach. For complex problems. Finally, taking into account values and extra-rational components. Under this rational model, right, as a conclusion, under this rational model, the issue is considered afresh. And all possible alternatives are evaluated to find the single best or optimal solution. Now, understand something. There is give a government scheme as an example. What government scheme is not working? Barely working. I mean, we hear a lot of news, but okay. for example, there are a lot of stadiums that have been built on the river banks, or a lot of infrastructure that has been built on river banks. Well, let's MG Narega. These are very livelihood missions. I want something related to infrastructure, which is a better example. Gram Sadak Yojana. Or, छोड़ो इसको. Yeah, it's still there. Pradhan Mantri Jan Awas Yojana. For example, there is a sports policy in India. Okay, there is, for example, a sports policy is there in India, and we have invested almost 1,000 crores in this particular policy since the last 3 years. Okay, so total of 1,000 crore per year has been spent on this, but the return is not at all showing in terms of medal tally, in terms of performance, etc., etc. It's not showing anything. Now, rational model does what is? A rational model, for example, this year is 2025. A rational model will see in the year 2025, is this particular policy working or not? If it is not working, scrap it, find a new policy, and source the funds there. Okay? The problem with this model is sports being a very 4-5 year process. It has a bit of a gestation period for it to show results. So, for example, if you keep on investing, after 7-8 years, it'll start showing results because the facilities will increase, sports facility, craze among youth will increase, nutritional levels of sports person will increase, coaches, teams, broadcasting, etc. Those things will increase. That means for something to be successful in the long run, there has to be some level of gestation period that is required. Rational model does not see that. Rational model sees that, for example, if we are making a stadium and the stadium is not getting built, there are some problems happening. Okay, scrap it. Fund something that is actually giving returns. Rational means it completely sees things rationally. If something is working, send more money. If it is something is not working, cut it out. Okay. For example, a loss-making PSU, rational model will see that whether this PSU is working or not, working fine or not. If it is not working fine, cut it out. It does not see that let's revamp it or do something, cut it out. Okay? Rational model means purely rational thinking. Don't you think it's problematic at times? It is, right? Because there is a lot of sunk cost that is there. You invest a lot of money in somewhere. If it is not working then and there, rational model just scraps it. Yes, that means the problem with rational model, the critique would be sunk cost is there. Okay? Now, there are two models. One is rational model, another one is incremental model. Okay? Now, we'll write something in incremental model and then we'll discuss this. Okay. Incremental model by Charles Lindblom. Charles Lindblom. Charles Lindblom incremental model. This model, also known as branch model, or muddling through. Or muddling through. Okay. Offers a realistic critique of pure rational model. offers a realistic critique of pure rational model. The core idea of this Charles Lindblom's model happens to be it views policy making as a process of making small incremental adjustment to existing policies, small incremental adjustments into existing policies rather than rather than undertaking a complete overhaul rather than undertaking a complete overhaul. This means what? Rational model was completely overhauling the things. Yes. Now it gives critique of the rational model. It gives a critique of the rational model. First is the sunk cost problem. Rational approach ignores the massive investments already made in existing policies and institutions. In existing policies and institutions. Second point of critique, risk of irreparable damage. A complete policy overhaul is risky and can cause costly and irreversible failures. Irreversible failures. Irreversible failures. So, first one is the sunk cost. Sunk cost is a sports policy. Sunk cost. Okay. Irreversible damage would be. Send me all of these examples, right? Because I'm not writing. क्या irreversible damage ना? So government PSUs, okay, government PSUs essentially do a lot of functions. Plus, they form the muscle of the government. If somebody, sometimes the government has to flex the muscle, these government PSUs work as those entities within the economy in which the government can control the economy or put its foot down in the economy if it doesn't want something. Things such as BSNL. If tomorrow a private monopoly comes into the telecom sector, so BSNL is like an insurance scheme for the government. That if tomorrow government wants, it can offer BSNL as a substitute to Airtel or Jio or Vodafone, right? That means if suddenly if you take BSNL out, if take money out of the way for BSNL, and there is nothing that any other company or any other entity can do, this means it's an irreparable damage what private monopoly will put India through. So irreparable damage is like an essential PSU which is presently loss making. If you pull money out of it, pull the plug, it can cause severe damage to public interest in the long run. Example will be BSNL. Suddenly tomorrow, if were we keeping Air India with the government for a very long time? Because tomorrow, if only one airline is there in India, private airline, essentially functioning, because these are very costly businesses. Not anybody can start a startup, and there are no airline startups, right? Because the gestation period and the initial capital is so huge, there is very less competition in the market. In India also, essentially, we are seeing two things. We see Air India and Indigo, right? There is not any other player. Vistara is there, but again, that's Air India. So these things, this is why the government was not getting out of these sectors, which has huge amount of initial capital investment. Are there any other airlines? SpiceJet is there, but do you guys use SpiceJet? Goa Air is there. That Junjunwala one, right? That was Goa Air. Okay. SpiceJet you guys use?
I don't see it.
Yeah, SpiceJet is not there. Kingfisher is also not there. So Akasha Air was Junjunwala's. Yes. Go Air was somebody else's, I believe. Go Air was old though. Very old, na? There is actually a book written by an investigative journalist, uh, The Feast of Vultures. I don't remember the journalist's name. Uh, Manu something, I don't know. It's a Maharashtrian author only. So in that, he actually writes that story of Go Air and how Go Air and Indigo competed in the early 2010s and how dirty is the airline business and how competitive it is. I guess the guy got killed or something. Not the journalist, this Go Air guy. The Feast of Vultures. Uh, Josie Joseph is the investigative journalist's name. Josie Joseph wrote this book. So because so see, businesses like these are very competitive in nature, right? So the government can't suddenly tomorrow think that we'll start an airlines and will be started. There is a long gestation period. Because there are huge costs involved. So that is why government is very wary to shut down some PSUs in some sectors. Because in the long term, uh, they might cause a problem. Because if you essentially see airlines might someday, I mean, it's still essentially a duopoly right now in the larger scheme of things, right? Similarly, when it comes to aircraft manufacturing around the world, there are only two, Airbus and Boeing, right? It gives France and United States significant geopolitical power internationally. Russia tried to create an aircraft manufacturing. China tried it. Both of them failed. Miserably, they failed. That is, I mean, these are the businesses which are very important. So, for example, a rational model will think, okay, this is making a lot of losses. Let's cut it out. But these are not. So the government is not there always to think about rationality. The government's function is more than this.
In the International Court of Justice, Boeing was called upon based on how many incidents they were facing of airplane crashes. I think the rationality approach stood there also because despite so many casualties that we've seen over the past 40, 50 years, Malaysian Airlines that got disappeared. Yeah. So the rationality approach stands here as well.
How so? How rationality will be appeared?
Because since
Because there is no losses, right? But we are saying from the government's point of view, there was no government company that was shut down and then Boeing stepped in. No, right? These people, these were already from the starting. These things were aircraft manufacturers. Uh, what was that? A sunk cost and irreparable damage. You have written the examples, right? So within incrementalism, there are two concepts: disjointed incrementalism, right? Disjointed incrementalism. So small discounted changes are made in response to various demands from different sections of society. Various demands from different sections of society. And the second concept within this is partisan mutual adjustment. Partisan mutual adjustment. Basically, the policy accommodates competing demands through a process of adjustment, and compromise. compromise among various actors, which reduces political stress, which reduces political stress. So under incrementalism, the features are, write down certain features of incrementalism. Only a few policy alternatives, which are minor variations, of the current policy are considered. Of the current policy, are considered. It proceeds through a succession. Of incremental changes. Third, it involves mutual adjustment and negotiation among actors. Mutual adjustment and negotiation among actors. 4, it uses a trial and error method. It uses a trial and error method. So incrementalism, the significance would be incrementalism is considered a more satisfactory and realistic model because it scores high on criteria like coherence and simplicity. Next, you write. Okay. So now you can see how rational optimal model and incremental model are very different. These are opposite sides of each other. One is saying, let's make small changes and keep on making those small changes and continue the status quo, but just change status quo a little bit. A rational model is more revolutionary in nature. Yes. So it is. That is why it is also called the root model of decision making. It goes to the root, either cuts it out or makes it continue. Right? All solutions or actions are root. There is nothing adding on the top of something. There is nothing like that. Basically, different groups are competing, and we make a balance of each other. For example, right now there might so while political parties uh, when they make an alliance before elections, they compete to get different seats. Who gets more seats to fight elections, and those seat sharing arrangements happen. So that is, they reach to a middle point, right? Basically, that's a mutual agreement that they reach. That is what it means. Just a different keyword used by Lindblom. That's all. Next comes mixed scanning model. Mixed scanning model. Mixed. This is by Amitai et Zioni. Amitai et Zioni. This model provides a synthesis of the rational and incremental approaches. It says policy issues should be first considered broadly. Policy issues should be first considered broadly to identify various relevant aspects. To identify various relevant aspects. Once key issues are identified, each of these needs to be understood in detail. This accommodates the interests of both rational and incremental models, because we are also seeing the big picture. Rational and incremental models, because we are also seeing the big picture and we are also focusing on the details. It also advocates for a communitarian approach involving multiple stakeholders. Next is public choice approach. Pawan, what is public choice approach? And non-state actors. That means the choice of the public we are also exemplifying. We're letting public decide what to do, giving more choices to the public choice approach. So this approach rejects the monopolistic and exclusivist. The monopolistic rejects the monopolistic and exclusivist framework of policy making. This framework of policy making captured by politicians and bureaucrats. Politicians and bureaucrats in a welfare state. It advocates for a market-based multi-stakeholder governance approach. Where policy is made with active involvement of the state, society, and the market. So example of this would be education policy. In education policy, the government was an actor. NGOs such as Pratham were an actor, and private sector such as private educational institutions were also an actor. Next, the last policymaking model, Graham T. Allison's model of policymaking. Allison argued that no single model can influence policy decisions. Could explain policy decisions, sorry. would explain policy decisions. He proposed a composite model with 3 submodels to provide a detailed picture. Model 1, rational actor model. Model 1, rational actor model. It considers the government. It considers the government as a single rational actor, that identifies a problem. It identifies a problem, evaluates alternatives, and chooses the optimal solution. Okay. Model 2, the organizational process model. This views policies as not as a single choice, but as the output of various government organizations, each functioning according to its own pre-established SOPs. Pre-established SOPs, that means standard operating procedures, SOPs, and work culture. Then comes model 3, the bureaucratic politics model. It sees policy as the outcome of bargaining, negotiation, and compromise among various key players. Example, heads of different ministries within the governments, etc. etc. Allison concludes that policy making is a complex mixture of rationalism, behavioralism, and political bargaining. Basically, within this model, he has explained that there is elements of rationalism there. There are different groups who are acting according to their SOPs. Okay, there is organizational process involved in this, and there is bureaucratic politics. That different ministries, institutions, all are having a say in policy making. Okay, this shows that policy making is not one approach or one model idea. It's different models or different kinds of elements that goes into policy making. And of course, he's right. It's more broad in nature rather than just one particular model explaining it. So there are a few other models are also there, such as the garbage can model. It's very important model. You write it down. Garbage can model. So when you see a garbage can, are there things very organized there? No, they're only thrown. like that. So garbage can model says that policy formulation, write it down, policy formulation can be random, and chaotic. Problems, full stop, problems, solutions, and political opportunities. Problems, solutions, and political opportunities are dumped into a garbage can, and a policy is made when these elements happen to align. Policies is made when these elements happen to align. Now, there might be a lot of problems in India, and of course, there are solutions to those problems. But not always those solutions come into policies and government acts on it. That does not happen. So it's like a garbage can. There are problems, there are solutions, there is everything, and there is political opportunity. When all of these align, then policy is being made. The politician has to have an opportunity there also to make a particular policy. There has to be a problem and there has to be a solution. These three needs to align, and suddenly a policy is made. So garbage can model says there is no actual plans, etc., etc., etc. These things are available always. When they align, it happens. There is no coherence that okay, this policy first, this policy, etc., etc. Example of this is the National Investigating Agencies Act was made just after the Mumbai attacks. Was made just after Mumbai attacks. Game theory is another key model. It views policy making as a competitive game. Policy making as a competitive game where actors make strategic choices. Actors make strategic choices based on their expectations, of how other actors will behave. Example will be a prisoner's dilemma. Yes, prisoner's dilemma is an example of this. So in real life, in real world policy making, imagine a conflict going on between two countries. Now, for example, the India-Pakistan conflict that happened recently. Now, the policy or the decisions, whether to increase the pressure or not, whether to increase bombardment or not, it is also done in an assumption that the other side won't respond with more. We also want to showcase that we have proved our strength, but we also don't want to escalate it to a point of no return. That means it's a dilemma, right? How much is the other side ready to accept without the other side going all in for it? So that means we also when it comes to tariffs, okay, tariffs. How much do we respond? Do we suddenly respond to the increasing tariffs of the US? Or do we wait, take some time, see the options? Because both sides we can lose. Okay? An immediate reaction can escalate a trade war. Similarly, a late reaction will create a lot of losses for Indians. Yes. So it's a competitive environment in which game theory says that policy is being made. Yes, a lot of things are influencing. Understood? Prisoner's dilemma. We have discussed this in class once. See, prisoner's dilemma is, for example, you guys are both prisoners. Okay, you have done some things together. Okay, you have done a murder. You and Pavan have done a murder. So I put Pavan in one cell, Takshashila in another cell. Okay? And you are the investigating officer. So he says to Pavan that we know that you have done it, but we exactly don't know that whether whatever the other person has done. What you do is you become a government witness. You become a government witness and will reduce your sentence to 5 years. From 10 years, for example, the crime says 10 years you will have to serve. So one option with Pavan is he becomes a witness against you and he gets 5 years and you get 10 years. Okay. Second option is Pavan does not say anything. Pavan says nothing. They don't have a proof against you people. Okay. They're depending on your both's testimony. Pavan says nothing. This option is 0 years. Okay. So I'll come to both sides. And third is these are the three options. Under Takshila, there is same things written. Basically, they are saying to both of you, you become a witness, you get 5 years. Yes? If you both say nothing, none of you will be proven guilty. That means you both get 0 years. And if the other person cracks and this person does not crack, this person gets 10 years. Are you able to understand? So prisoner's dilemma is, what exactly is the other person going to say? Because if you don't say anything, chances are you might get 0 years or 10 years. If you say something, for sure you are getting 5 years. Now this person is depending on this person, that if this person you stay silent and the other person is becoming a witness, you are 10 years down. If that person is saying nothing, you both are free. So what does one person choose? Because there are multiple options of things going wrong and things going right for you. So that's what prisoner's dilemma is. This is what game theory says. Game theory is like, we don't exactly know what is going to happen, so our decision making is based on multiple possibilities. There is a risk involved, reward involved, everything involved. So this is called prisoner's dilemma. Okay. So game theory is functional like that. For example, if we raise the tariffs, well, the other side can be fearful and reduce tariff altogether, but things can escalate also, or else things will go normal. Basically, it's a gamble. Yes, and gamble with three possibilities or multiple possibilities like this. So this prisoner's dilemma is a classic example of game theory, how game theory is functioning. Game theory we have done. Game theory. You simply write game theory, prisoner's dilemma. That's it. Yeah. Of course, these are studies, right? No. I mean, these are made up. These are real examples. These are also made up examples, but these are scholarly examples. Yeah. So it's given by John Nash, the economist, Nobel winning economist. You should write another model. Sorry, that was not the last model. Another model you write called steam and window approach. Stream and window approach. Sorry. By John Kingdon. By John Kingdon. It is also known as organized anarchy model. Organized anarchy model. It posits that a policy window of opportunity, opens up when three independent streams converge. When three independent streams converge, first is the problem stream. That means a specific problem is identified and gets public attention. Second is the political stream. The political climate and agenda or events are favorable. And third is the policy stream. A viable policy solution is available and ready to be chosen. Basically, it's like the garbage can model only. So, stream and window. What else do I have? That's all. These were the models only. No other model. No, write a critical view of rationalist versus incrementalist debate. Rationalist versus incrementalist debate. So, rational choice approach, criticism of rational choice approach would be it is often criticized for being mechanical in nature. Having a gap between planning and implementation. Having a gap between planning and implementation, producing inaccurate predictions. Producing inaccurate predictions and ignoring the crucial role of policy entrepreneur. And then comes the criticism of incremental approach. It's criticized for being insufficient, conservative, short-sighted, it is lacking in vision, inefficient, conservative, short-sighted, lacking in vision, and susceptible to strategic bargaining, where actors hide their true preference. Dror argued it is not suitable for situations. It is not suitable for situations where fundamental changes are needed. Not suitable for situations where fundamental changes are needed. Then comes the purpose of public policy, right? Something about purpose of public policy. Let's take a 5 minutes break. What time do you need to leave? Why so precise? What time is your flight? You have to be ready. How far? How long does it take for to the airport? 45 minutes including traffic. That's early though. I mean that's fair enough. 45 minutes. That's why I assume that leave by 7:15. You will have to be there by 8:30, right? Yeah. I get to leave now. No. Sure. Because you can leave early, 15 minutes, there is no problem. You shouldn't trust the traffic here. Pawan, you aren't going home. You aren't going home. You'll be here. What plans for Diwali then? No plans. You?
His holidays to be like for Plutus.
I believe only for Diwali they it should be. So it's Monday, right? Sunday, Monday, you know. You want more? I mean, of course, you can take more. All of you have finished college, I believe.
Yeah.
What did you do in college?
I'm an advocate.
Oh, yeah. From where?
But Maharashtra National Law University.
Acha, MNLU. Yeah. Which batch did you get? So, 24, 23 graduates, you know? 23 or 22 graduates. Do you know this guy? Amandeep.
Yeah.
Amandeep, you know?
Yeah, it's very
He's in Sam Mumbai right now.
Yes.
Amandeep. Why did you not sit for placements?
Well, I was going to, but then I priority straight. Didn't want to get into that field altogether.
You didn't want to.
Yeah, I didn't.
How did you become so clear?
This always been there actually, and I could have easily gone for plain B, but it doesn't make sense to be doing it.
Yeah.
Even if this doesn't pan out, so I always know that.
Yeah. Very important, man.
I was getting a job, but
Where?
KSK, it's a legal firm.
KSK.
KSK, Mumbai based.
Okay. What is the
Commercial litigation.
what is the full form?
King's
Stubbs and बचेगा हाँ ठीक है समझ गया You must have graduated school from in 2020.
Yes.
So right, purpose and significance of public policy. Purpose and significance of public policy. First is embodiment of national vision. Embodiment of national vision. So the content of public policy is crucial as it reflects the constitutional ideals and the very essence of a country's polity. In the very essence of a country's polity, vision, and socio-economic spirit. Second, next point would be betterment of society. Wayne Parsons notes the wider purpose of public policy is not merely the delivery of goods, and services, but also enlightenment, fuller development of individuals, and development of consensus, social awareness and legitimacy. Consensus and social awareness and legitimacy. This is what Wayne Parsons is saying. So basically, in these generic questions, such as significance of public policy, purpose of public policy, you should have these scholarly names to throw around to have more weight. Next point would be a scientific discipline. significance and purposes to it's a scientific discipline that is policy sciences. So scholars such as Dror, write his full name, you must remember. Yehezkel. Yehezkel Dror has formulated a field called policy sciences. Main dimension is policy analysis. That is a rigorous search for the causes and consequence of public policies. For the causes and consequence of public policies, which helps in selecting the best policy alternatives by evaluating evidence. Thomas Dye gave 3 reasons to study policy. First is a scientific reason for greater knowledge about the processes, consequence, origin. Second is professional reason to apply the knowledge of social science. To solve practical problems and produce professional advice. The third is a political reason. To ensure nation adopts right policies to achieve right goals. The last point when it comes to why we need to study policy significance is enhancing political awareness. Public policy makes people aware or makes citizens aware of their entitlements and helps them analyze government performance. Thereby formulating and voicing their own opinions. That means leading to deepening of democracy. Actually, leave. I'm stressing out because of your timings. Huh? Oh, Amandeep and I were interning together in Sam Delhi. Yeah. Happy Diwali. Then, right, characteristics of public policy. It is a set of goal-oriented actions. goal-oriented actions. It intends to serve the public interest. It intends to serve the public interest. It is legitimized by legal authority, such as the constitution or laws. It is legitimized by legal authority, such as the constitution and laws. Then its legitimacy also comes from public opinion and consensual approval. Public opinion and consensual approval. It includes not only the actions the government takes, but also those it intends to take. But also those that it intends to take. It is a pattern of actions aimed at the resolution of conflicting claims. The resolution of conflicting claims. Now, Gladden, E.N. Gladden, has given 4 levels of policy making. At what levels policies are made? Okay, first is the political level. First is the political level. So, broad outlines of policies set by the government in power. So, broad outlines of policies by government set by the government in power. So, broad outlines are set, and then within it, there are things such as what do you say? Delegated legislation is given to the executive to fill in the gaps. So delegated legislation is an example of this, of political level. Then comes executive level. It is division of broad policy into concrete objectives. Policy into concrete objectives, such as cabinet policies. Okay? Then comes administrative level, the form of executive policies in operation. Then comes the technical level, the actual day-to-day implementation of policy by administrators. It's like the street level bureaucrats. Yes? Street level bureaucrats. Lot to write for a day. Huh? We'll have to do that. There is no other thing. Right? Public policy and public interest. How many pages have you all written in total count? 6 pages. 6 pages is essentially 3 15-marker answer in mains. Huh? And you are tired. Public policy and the public interest. Plus, you don't have a habit to write in my class, I believe. Kuch ka PPD, public policy and public interest. The central implicit assumption of public policy is that it is undertaken in public interest. undertaken in the public interest. However, a distinction must be made. However, a distinction must be made. The word public in public policy refers to state. The word public in public policy refers to state, while the word public in public interest refers to the community of citizens. It refers to the community of citizens. Are you able to understand? That when it comes to public interest, the word public means citizens in citizen interest. In public policy, the word public means state, the government. Now, the public choice critique. This approach challenges the assumption. This approach challenges the assumption of a benevolent state. Challenges the assumption of a benevolent state. It asserts that public policy is made by rational self-interested individuals. Rational self-interested individuals not individuals, actually actors. Cut individuals and write actors, such as politicians, bureaucrats, and other functionaries. Politicians, bureaucrats, and other functionaries. Just as a businessman maximizes profit, a politician may aim to maximize votes. A politician may aim to maximize votes, and a bureaucrat may aim to maximize their budgets. And a bureaucrat may aim to maximize their budgets. So bureaucrats are budget maximizers and politicians are vote maximizers. Where did we study this? Public affairs. This perspective, right? This perspective suggests we should think of policymakers not as purely public spirited actors, but as individuals displaying purposive, utility maximizing behavior. Purposive, utility maximizing behavior who respond to incentives and disincentives within a given set of constraints. Right actors in public policy processes. First set of actors are official actors. So first is the legislature. It enacts laws, approves budgets, provides certain legal foundations of policies. Okay? Legislature is the first official actor. Second is the executive. It provides primary direction. For example, political executive, the prime minister or the cabinet ministers, they provide primary direction, while permanent executive is central to the formulation of that policy. Is central to the formulation of that policy. Then comes the judiciary. Third point, to the power of judicial review and activism. To the power of judicial review and activism, the judiciary can shape, modify, or even initiate policies. Example would be the Vishakha guidelines for prevention of sexual harassment at workplaces. Okay. What other policies or judgments that were made? Important policies. Write another case under this. Shreya Singhal versus the Union of India. Section 66A of the IT Act was deemed null and void. Shreya Singhal versus Union of India. Union of India. Union of India. Pawan, have you started writing tests and all in GS? Start. You start writing. While these classes are going on, you start writing tests in GS. Till January end, you should at least write 2 tests of every paper, full length. November, December, January, you have 3 months. That's enough. You have notes ready for all your GS. Start writing. Don't wait for prelims and all. You are not giving next year, right? What notes do you have from your coaching time? You have those notes. Make it comprehensive and start writing. The fourth actor, official actor, is the bureaucracy. Plays a crucial role in providing information, drafting legislation, and advising ministers or ministries. They form the core part of government capacity to formulate and implement policy. The government's capacity to formulate and implement policies. Then comes some specialized bodies. Example would be Niti Aayog, Cabinet Secretariat. Niti Aayog, Cabinet Secretariat. Then comes international and supranational organizations. International and supranational organizations, for example, WTO, IMF, World Bank. As an example, you can write LPG reforms pushed by IMF and World Bank during 1991. Are there any other official actors left? Specialized bodies. Under specialized bodies, also write example of the election commission under TN session. Then comes non-official actors. Non-official actors of policymaking. Uh, Political parties, Political parties, their manifestos form a key part of policies. For example, free water and electricities in Delhi by the AAP government. Then there are interest groups in civil society. Example would be Pratham, Center for Science and Environment, CSE. There is ADR also, Association for Democratic Reforms. Then there is media. Then there is media. There is media. So they basically form or shape public agenda, public policy, etc. Then there is something called public opinion also there. Then write things such as policy think tanks, right, in non-official actor, think tanks and consultancies like BCG, McKinsey. Think tanks and consultancies. So, for example of this, you can write that during 2024, 2024, the UP government had this program of building a $1 trillion economy of Uttar Pradesh. So, to advise this, I guess Ernst and Young, EY, was hired to advise or to frame policy that how to take UP into a make it UP into a $1 trillion economy. Okay? So that is the role of them in policy making. Example, you can write this. UP $1 trillion economy. Then next topic is public policy cycle in action. Public policy cycle in action. So, policy implementation is the process. Policy implementation is the process of translating a policy decision into action, to attain its aim and realize its values. To attain its aims and realize its values. The stages of implementations of policy implementation. First stage is planning. Second stage is resource allocation. And third is execution. These are self-explanatory. Then, what are the essentials of a successful implementation? Essentials for a successful implementation. First is clarity. The policy goals and objectives must be clearly defined. Policy goals and objectives must be clearly defined. Second is reasonableness. Second is reasonableness. The policy must be realistic and not an idealistic ivory tower exercise. Policy must be realistic and not an idealistic ivory tower exercise. Third is support. That means adequate manpower, tools, technology, and other resources must be available. Next is organizational setting. So organizational structure, it may be centralized or decentralized, must be appropriate for the policy. Organizational setting or organizational structure is important. Then participation. So support and participation of the public makes the policy implementation easier. And sixth is very important, monitoring. Continuous monitoring is required to identify deviations. And take timely course corrections. Richard Elmore's models of policy, models of implementation. Richard Elmore's models of implementation. So Elmore argued that no single approach can fully explain implementation. No single approach can fully explain implementation. He adapted Allison's model to propose four perspectives. So the way Graham T. Allison made in policy making, Elmore is doing it in policy implementation. Okay? So first is system management model. It views implementation as a rational exercise of planning, design, and allocation. Second is bureaucratic model. It emphasizes how implementation is influenced by the SOPs, work culture of both higher and street level bureaucracy. Third is organizational development model. Focuses on how implementation is influenced by the habits and practices of individuals and the tools they use. And fourth is conflicting and bargaining model. It recognizes that implementation involves persuasion, bargaining, and compromise among various officials and agencies. Next step comes policy monitoring, because while implementation is going on, It's a parallel thing that is happening when it comes to monitoring. Rabe and Ojasvi, are you following everything? Okay. Policy monitoring. Okay. So, what have you seen till now? Any real life policy that you have, you know that this way monitoring happens? Hmm? Social audit. Yes, this is a very good example. Social audit is parallel monitoring is happening while that policy is being implemented. Yes. So, policy monitoring. So, monitoring, right, is a concurrent process that runs alongside implementation. Is a concurrent process that runs alongside implementation. It is not a control measure, but a support and guidance mechanism. It is not a controlled measure, but a support and guidance mechanism to ensure the success of implementation. To ensure the success of implementation. 6 steps of monitoring. First is planning, then comes allocation, then comes implementation. So in planning, so defining the manner and requirements of monitoring. How exactly are we monitoring? Allocation is assigning human and financial resources to monitor that. Then implementation, actual state of monitoring activities. There is measurement, collection and calculation of relevant data. Fourth point is measurement. Then comes evaluation, analyzing the data to identify shortcomings. Analyze the data to identify shortcomings. 6 is suggestions, providing detailed and clear corrective suggestions. So, example, a very good example of this is while policy monitoring is while aspirational district program or block program is implemented. So, Niti Aayog's dashboard is there. So, Niti Aayog's dashboard. Niti Aayog's dashboard, it sees how things are working in real time. Okay? The high frequency indicators that are being shown. So, what are the actors in monitoring? Write down the actors in monitoring. Monitoring can be carried out by insiders, that means the implementing agency itself, or by outsiders, specialists, and other agencies. A multi stakeholder approach involving beneficiary committees and civil society often has the highest acceptance. The way you said, social audit. Yes. In bracket of this actors in monitoring, write Frederick Feiner debate. Frederick Feiner debate refer to discussions under accountability and control. Refer to discussions under accountability and control. We'll do this debate under that unit. Okay. Then comes policy evaluation. They're all very easy. Policy evaluation. Evaluation is the assessment of the success or failure of a policy. Success or failure of a policy. That means basically we are seeing that what are the achievements, what are the limitations of this particular policy that is going on, and we also see the overall impact of it. So this provides data for rectifying the current policy or initiating the new ones, and helps in bringing about administrative reforms. And helps in bringing about administrative reforms. So what are the key criteria for evaluation? So these are first three are 3 E's. 3 E's are economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. Economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. What is economy, efficiency, and effectiveness? That is economy. What is efficiency? Hmm? That is effectiveness. Efficiency. Again, that is effectiveness. Efficiency is basically whether it has been done in the best possible manner or not. I mean, in the best possible manner in the sense when it comes to the time and cost. So economy, I mean, that means was the policy implemented with minimal or optimal cost or not? Efficiency is whether minimum cost and time was there, and effectiveness. Was the policy objective actually attained or not? Next criteria are adequacy. So did the policy completely address the scale of the problem? Adequacy. For example, if 500 schools were needed, we created 5 schools. Is that adequate? No, right? So that means adequacy is a key criteria for evaluation. Then comes responsiveness. Did the policy adapt to changing policy needs? Did the policy adapt to changing policy needs? So then comes utilitarianism. How many people did the policy benefit? This is also a metric of monitoring or evaluation. Sorry, beg your pardon. Then comes Pareto's optimality. Pareto's optimality. Now, what is Pareto's optimality? Ever heard of this before? See, Pareto's optimality is something, for example, we want to make a power plant in a particular forest. Okay? For that power plant to be made, if we make a 500 gigawatt power plant, we are displacing 100 people. To make a 500 gigawatt power plant, we are displacing 100 people. To make a 1000 gigawatt, 1000 gigawatt power plant, we are still displacing 100 people. 1200 gigawatt, 100 people. But if we go to 1500 gigawatt, we are displacing 200 people. Ah, 200 people. So before this, 1200 gigawatt, 100 people. Which do you think is optimal? 1200. 500 is not optimal. 1500 is becoming too much displacement. 1200, basically whatever we are achieving in terms of power generation by displacing 100 people, the maximum is 1200 gigawatt. So Pareto's optimality will say that we should go to the optimal level so that maximum benefit is being obtained without making people worse off. Okay? Power plant has to be made, but are we and 100 people are to be displaced. But what is the maximum amount we can achieve by displacing minimum amount of people? The maximum amount can be 1500 gigawatts, but minimum amount is 100 people. So 1200 is the optimal amount. So that is Pareto's optimality. Yes. Pareto's optimality is also a condition under policy evaluation. Understood this example? एग्जाम्पल समझ नहीं आया? देखो पूछ लिया करो ये सब. देखो एक फॉरेस्ट एरिया है, उसमें लोग रह रहे हैं, ठीक है. तो बेसिकली यहाँ पे एक पावर प्लांट बनेगा और हम लोगों को क्लियर आउट करेंगे, ठीक है. तो कोई एक पब्लिक प्रोजेक्ट का एग्जांपल लो, माइनिंग मान लो, माइनिंग कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, माइनिंग कर रहे हैं. अब हम 10 माइनिंग एरियाज माइनिंग करते हैं यहाँ पे, ठीक है. तो हम डिस्प्लेस कर रहे हैं, कितने फैमिलीज रहते हैं, ट्राइबल्स रहते हैं, तो हम 100 ट्राइबल्स को डिस्प्लेस कर रहे हैं उससे. वहां पे माइनिंग होगा, डिस्प्लेस कर रहे हैं मतलब उनको भगा रहे हैं वहां से, निकाल रहे हैं वहां से. अब 50 माइनिंग एरियाज, माइनिंग यूनिट्स हम अगर खोल रहे हैं, तब भी हम 100 ट्राइबल्स को निकाल रहे हैं, वही सेम अमाउंट ऑफ ट्राइबल्स निकल रहे हैं उसमें. लेकिन हम अगर 70 माइनिंग यूनिट्स खोल रहे हैं, तो हमको 150 लोगों को भगाना पड़ेगा. तो यहाँ पे सबसे ज्यादा ऑप्टिमल अमाउंट कौन सा है? दिस वन ना, क्योंकि मिनिमम लोग हैं लेकिन बेनिफिट भी मैक्सिमम है. सो परेटोज ऑप्टिमलिटी यही कह रहा है कि किसी को ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम ना हो, मिनिमम प्रॉब्लम में हम मैक्सिमम बेनिफिट कैसे अटेन कर पाए, वो कहता है परेटोज ऑप्टिमलिटी. ठीक है. और क्या क्या समझ नहीं आया है? सारा कुछ समझ आएगा. Another metric of policy evaluation is Rawlsian idea of fairness and justice. John Rawls' idea of fairness as justice. Did the policy provide equal access to opportunity and did any special arrangements benefit the least advantaged? Whatever the special arrangement was, did it favor the least advantage? Are you able to understand? Okay. So certain case studies on policy evaluation, such as MG Narega evaluation. So Niti Aayog and other agencies, they used mixed method approach. The quantitative data, for example, fund disbursement, job days generated, is combined with qualitative data. Qualitative data of social audit to see leakages, etc., etc. These are combined, so this mixed method approach is used to find out Manrega evaluation. Then comes aspirational district program evaluation. So Niti Aayog uses a outcome-based monitoring dashboard. Outcome-based monitoring dashboard where real-time data on key performance indicators, KPIs, is used for continuous evaluation. Okay? So these are certain case studies. You can also add certain case studies that you come across. Let's finish this quickly. State theories in public policy. We'll finish public policy today. 15 minutes mein ho jayega. State theories in public policies. Different theories of the state offer different explanations for how and for whom public policy is made. For how and for whom public policy is made. First is pluralistic state. Views state as a fair and neutral institution. Views state as a fair and neutral institution that makes policies based on the demands of various groups. Second is neo-pluralistic state. Neo-pluralistic state argues that state is not entirely neutral, as it compromises its powerful interest groups, as it comprises of powerful interest groups like bureaucrats and politicians who also participate in this bargaining process. Then comes Leviathan state. That is the welfare state. Leviathan state, that is the welfare state. A powerful patronizing state that captures every aspect of human life. A powerful patronizing state that captures every aspect of human life. Public policy is fully captured and directed by the state. Then comes the Marxist state. Views the state as the executive committee of the bourgeoisie. Views the state as the executive committee of the bourgeoisie. The policy is made in the name of the public but serves the private interest. Then comes the patriarchal state. A feminist critique, patriarchal state, a feminist critique which argues that state is male dominated. state is male dominated. It protects and promotes male values and interests, making public policy a tool for perpetuating gender inequality. Making public policy a tool for perpetuating gender inequality. Then comes evolving role of the state and its policies. Evolving role of the state and policy. There are three historical stages. So three historical stages. The 19th century had a night watchman state. 19th century had a night watchman state. A laissez-faire state with a minimal role focused on protecting liberty and enforcing contracts. Protecting liberty and enforcing contracts. Second comes welfare state, 20th century idea. A centralized bureaucratic state, with an expanded role, focused on ensuring equality, and providing social welfare. Third is the regulatory state, 21st century. From which theory this came up? Yes. Which theory? NPM was the implementation of which theory? But NPM is the implementation of which theory? Which approach? So which idea was implemented in new public management? Governance came after this. Public choice approach. Public choice approach is the idea, implementation is the new public management. The regulatory state, a facilitator state that moves away from direct provision towards more marketization, participation, and networking. Networking approach. So certain examples of state policies, for example, Leviathan state policy, welfare state policies. There are the PDS system in India, Manrega, write these down. PDS system, Manrega. Regulatory state policies are more like RERA and TRAI, that is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. These are regulatory state policies. Similarly, GST is a regulatory tax policy. So tax framework is designed by the state but is managed by businesses. Okay, the filing is done by businesses, managed by businesses. This was mostly public policy. Finished public policy as a unit. Do you have the syllabus with you? Let me search. Just search and give it to me. State theories and public policy formulations we have done. Models of policy making and their critique. Process of conceptualization, planning, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation and review, and the limitations. We have done all of this. So your aim is, through this whole process, your aim is every word in your syllabus, you should have notes in. If I'm skipping something, remind me that I have skipped this and remind yourself that I have skipped this and make notes on it, download it from the internet, get something somewhere. And I'll give it to you. Just remind me. There is some word, even a word we have skipped. So the aim is to have notes, comprehensive notes on every word of the syllabus. So whatever they'll ask, it will be answerable. At least we should cover all our bases. That from other than our notes, anything else shouldn't be asked. Because there is choices of questions that we can also play with in the paper. How many total pages have you written today? 8 pages or 8 sides. 8 sides. You have also written that much. Paper 7, 7, 8 pages. 8 pages, huh? 8 sides, you mean. 16 sides. 16 sides, right? So 16 sides are how many mains answers? 10 marker is 8. 15 marker is 5 or 6. So 6 answer you have written in what, 2.5 hours? 2 hours. Good start. Shall we end it? You are also not going home for Diwali. पढ़ाई करो. We'll go after Diwali for Chhat Puja. Parents are coming. Where in? अच्छा अच्छा. कहाँ पे? बिहार में. Whose marriage? What? Wait a second. Let me close this. How do I?